When I was a kid, one of my favorite things in the world was having sleepovers, especially at my friend Kyle's house. Kyle had this awesome setup, a big house with a massive basement that looped around in a perfect circle. It had everything: an old pool table, air hockey, beanbags, and even scooters we'd ride in laps while crashing from sugar after hours of video games and snacks. The best part? His parents slept on the top floor, so they never heard us down there. I'll never forget one night in particular. My mom dropped me off at Kyle's place after dinner. It was the night before a long weekend, so no school the next day. We headed straight to the basement where Kyle had a brand new game hooked up to his system. As we were playing, the door to the laundry room at the far end of the basement suddenly creaked open by itself. We froze. The game paused. Both of us turned toward the sound. Sure enough, the laundry room door was now open. I nudged Kyle and told him to go shut it. He brushed it off, saying, "It does that sometimes." But we both knew that basement had a weird vibe when it was dark and quiet. The idea of that pitch-black room sitting open behind us didn't sit right. Eventually, Kyle got up and closed it. Later that night, I was riding his scooter in circles around the basement again when I heard something. A loud clunk, like the sound of a dryer door slamming shut. It came from the laundry room. This time, we didn't brush it off. We bolted upstairs and woke up Kyle's dad. Half asleep, he walked down, glanced into the laundry room for maybe 5 seconds and said, "There's no one down here," before heading back up. Kyle and I stayed up a while longer before finally deciding to sleep. There were 2 couches in the basement, one by the TV and another tucked near the bar in the back. I picked the one near the bar. At some point in the middle of the night, I woke up. The basement was pitch black. No light from the windows, no glowing screens. Just this overwhelming stillness. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, suddenly feeling like I wasn't alone, like I was being watched. "Kyle?" I whispered just to check if he was awake. Right then, I heard movement. Something, or someone, shifted in the shadows, right near the laundry room. And then, the door slowly creaked shut. I jumped up and rushed over to the couch where Kyle had been, but he was gone. At that moment, I figured he was trying to scare me. Classic Kyle. I crept over to the laundry room door, figuring I'd turn the tables on him. After a few seconds of working up the nerve, I flung the door open and charged in with a shout. I flipped on the light. No one. I blinked, confused. There weren't many places to hide, and Kyle wasn't in any of them. That's when I noticed the dryer. Its round glass door was slightly fogged up, but there was clearly something inside. I stepped closer and crouched down. There was a person inside the dryer, curled up into a tight ball. The glass was tinted, but after a few seconds I realized that wasn't Kyle. It was a grown man. Before I could process it, I screamed and tore upstairs to wake Kyle's parents. Within seconds, the entire family was in the hallway, Kyle included. Turns out, he had gone upstairs to his bedroom earlier because he couldn't fall asleep downstairs. I shouted that someone was hiding in the dryer. Kyle's dad grabbed a flashlight and stormed downstairs. That's when we all heard it. Footsteps pounding through the living room, then the front door swinging open. Kyle's mom screamed. His dad tore out the front door in slippers, but whoever it was had already vanished into the night. The police showed up not long after. They asked me to describe the man, but all I could say was that he was wearing dark clothes. That night, I slept on the floor in Kyle's locked bedroom with a blanket pulled up to my ears. After that, we didn't do sleepovers for a while. This happened quite a while ago, back when I turned 13. It was July of that year, and to celebrate, a group of friends and I spent the day out in the city before heading back to my place for a sleepover. A couple of them had stayed over before, but some hadn't, so I was hoping everything would go smoothly. I wanted it to be one of those nights we'd all remember. Since there wasn't enough room upstairs, we laid out our sleeping bags across the living room floor. The plan was simple: junk food, bad movies, and zero sleep. We stayed up until about 1 a.m., watching cringy teen comedies and laughing too loud for that late at night. Eventually, we decided to go to sleep, which really just meant turning the lights off. Except for one little lamp we left on, because even though none of us would admit it, the dark still made us a bit uneasy. As expected, we started whispering to each other instead of sleeping. Someone brought up celebrity lookalikes, and we were in the middle of teasing each other about who looked like who, when we heard it. A loud knock. It hit the living room window hard, cutting straight through our conversation. "What was that?" asked Bree, one of my friends. Trying to keep things calm, I said, "It's probably just my dad messing around." He had a history of pulling pranks on us during sleepovers, so it wasn't too far-fetched. I tried to laugh it off, even though deep down I felt this knot of dread forming. Just as things were starting to settle down again. Another knock, louder this time. A few of my friends screamed. I tried to reassure them again. "Seriously, it's just my dad." Wanting to catch him in the act, I walked over to the window. The curtains were closed, so I reached out and carefully pulled one side back, and that's when I came face to face with a man. Definitely not my dad. He was bald, with a hollow, pale face and sharp, almost exaggerated features. His eyebrows were barely visible, and he had a noticeable gap where a front tooth should have been. His body language was off, like he was twitchy or unsteady, and his eyes looked glassy, like they were trying to focus, but couldn't. I screamed, loudly, snapped the curtain shut, and backed away so fast I nearly tripped. All of us were panicking now. Bree was shaking, and the others were nearly in tears. I bolted upstairs to find my parents. When I got to their room, I saw my mom peeking out of her window, already talking to someone outside. I didn't catch the full conversation, but she told me later what had happened. She said that the man had been wandering around our driveway, looking lost, and when she opened the window to ask what he was doing, he looked straight up and asked her, "Have you seen Mark? Where's Mark? Is Mark here?" He kept repeating it, over and over again. She told him we didn't know anyone named Mark and asked him to leave, but he just stood there, pacing back and forth. Eventually, he walked off. I ran back downstairs to check on my friends, who were huddled together, whispering and wide-eyed. I tried to play it cool and reassure them, but inside I felt awful for leaving them alone even for a few minutes. Meanwhile, my mom wasn't done. Her gut instinct kicked in, and she wasn't convinced the man was really gone. So she grabbed her keys, got in the car, and drove around the neighborhood. It was dark out. The kind of dark where the streetlights barely make a difference. She had to turn on her high beams just to see ahead. That's when she spotted someone dart across the road. At first, she thought it might be a teenager or a stray animal, but as she got closer, she realized it was him. The same man from our window. He suddenly stepped into the road like he wanted her to stop, like he wanted to get in front of the car. She slammed on the brakes, heart pounding, but before she could do or say anything, he vanished again. Just ran off into the night. We never found out who he was. No neighbors reported anything. No one came knocking after that. He never came back. And just like that, my carefully planned birthday sleepover became something we all remembered, but for the exact wrong reasons. So much for trying to make a good impression. When I was about 12, my friend Liam came over for a sleepover, something we did all the time back then. That night, though, he may have saved my life. It was a snowy Saturday night in early December. We were bundled up in blankets on the couch, watching holiday movies and sipping hot cocoa that my mom brought us. She always made an effort to treat my friends like family. My parents had separated earlier that year, so it was just my mom and me in the house. She had work early the next morning and headed to bed around 10. By midnight, Liam and I went up to my room. We played a bit on our handheld consoles, one of those classic pixel games we were obsessed with back then. I don't remember falling asleep, just that the next thing I knew, I was waking up in bed. It was freezing in my room, the kind of cold that cuts straight through the blankets. I also felt parched, so I got up and made my way downstairs to grab a glass of water. The weird part: the hallway and kitchen were much warmer than my bedroom. Like, noticeably warmer. I shrugged it off, drank my water, and headed back upstairs to bed. As I laid down and tried to fall asleep, something started bothering me. Liam's breathing. It sounded strange. Like deep, heavy, almost exaggerated breathing. At first, I figured he was snoring or something, but it just wouldn't stop. It was the only sound in the room, and it kept echoing in my ears. Eventually, I tossed a pillow in his direction and whispered, "Dude, can you chill with the breathing?" He stirred and looked up at me from the sleeping bag on the floor. "What are you talking about?" he asked, confused. "You're breathing," I said. "It's loud as hell." That's when his expression changed. He went quiet. His eyes shifted downward to the space under my bed. Then, without warning, he screamed. Liam scrambled back until his back hit the dresser, pointing beneath the bed in absolute panic. I jumped up and followed his gaze. And that's when I saw it. A man. A full-grown man, middle-aged, with messy hair and a pale face, was lying under my bed, half hidden in the shadows. He was staring at us, his finger held up to his lips as he whispered, "Shh." My whole body locked up. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then he whispered something that made my stomach drop. "I know your mom. I'm here to see her." That's when Liam and I bolted. We tore out of the room, screaming my mom's name. We raced into her bedroom and slammed the door shut behind us, locking it. She shot up from bed, completely startled and confused. "There's a man under my bed," I yelled, barely able to get the words out. Before she could respond, we all heard it. The doorknob shaking, then twisting, then slamming. The man was trying to break in. My mom grabbed her phone and dialed 911, tears in her voice as she screamed at him through the door to leave us alone. He kicked the door over and over, but once he realized she was on the phone with the police, it suddenly stopped. Silence. He ran. When the police showed up just a few minutes later, the house was quiet. They searched every room. He was gone. But upstairs, the big window in the guest room was wide open, pushed all the way up. That explained the icy draft. That's also how he got in. I told my mom that the man said he knew her, but she had absolutely no idea who he was. Later that night, she dropped Liam off at home, and she and I stayed at my aunt and uncle's house. The next day, my uncle came over and installed a reinforced lock on that window. It's been over a decade now, and I still don't know who that man was, or how he knew our names, let alone that we were in that room. But I do know one thing. If Liam hadn't woken up when he did, I might not be here telling this story.